Today, the defense is expected to finish questioning Jackson's young accuser. This after the teen dropped a bombshell Monday, admitting he told a school official that Jackson never touched him. CBS News correspondent Vince Gonzalez reports.
With fans cheering in falsetto, Michael Jackson, who was almost thrown in jail last week, arrived early Monday for his trial on molestation charges. In court, the singer showed no emotion as his young accuser admitted he twice told a dean at his old middle school, Jeffrey Alpert, that Jackson never touched him. The teen said, quote, "I told him that Michael didn't do anything to me." This investigation has been going on for more than 2 years, but the prosecution reportedly first interviewed Alpert only on Saturday, nearly 2 weeks into the trial.
Nothing good came of this day for prosecutors, not a single thing.
Defense attorney Tom Mesereau also went through the boy's school records, pointing to a series of teachers who called him disruptive, defiant, and strong-willed. One teacher even wrote he had good acting skills.
He does not come off as a victim. He comes off as someone who is much more likely to victimize someone else. Everyone knew this was crucial, and the crucial witness comes off very well for the defense and not so well for prosecutors.
The teen also made some inconsistent statements, but then so have people in the Jackson camp. Last week, when the singer was a no-show in court, one of his lawyers blamed a fall.
He tripped this morning and he fell in the early morning hours while he was getting dressed. His back is in terrible pain.
On Monday, Jackson's spokeswoman seemed to blame a bad mattress.
That morning when he awakened, he couldn't even walk or move his back.
But as he left court, Jackson seemed better and pleased.
Mesereau did a great job.
Vince Gonzalez, CBS News, Santa Maria, California.
Michael Jackson arrived in court on time and looking healthier than last week. The pop star's defense team is attempting damage control as his accuser takes the stand for the third day. Under cross-examination by Jackson attorney Tom Mesereau, the accuser admitted to several disciplinary problems at school and said he once told the dean that nothing happened between him and the pop star.
This young man, in a moment of high emotion with this former dean, looks the dean in the eye and says, "No, Michael Jackson didn't molest me."
The defense also pointed out that in an early police interview, the young accuser said his grandmother had told him about a certain type of sexual act, even though he had testified Jackson had told him about it. Pressed to explain, the boy said his grandmother told him about it, but Jackson made him do it. The judge has not yet determined whether to allow jurors to hear allegations of molestation from a different case more than 10 years ago. That decision will be made after hearing the accuser's testimony. To keep those details out of court, Mesereau is taking off the kid gloves when dealing with the young accuser. He's challenged testimony that Jackson did not help the boy's family, pointed to alleged inconsistencies in interviews with law enforcement, and told the jury that the allegations of sexual abuse came out only after the family met with attorneys. Jennifer Miller, CBS News, Santa Maria, California. Michael Jackson may have appeared a bit weak as he made his way into court, but his defense team is coming on strong. Under intense cross-examination that jumped from topic to topic, the pop star's accuser admitted to misbehaving at school, and twice, while meeting with the dean of students, pledged that Jackson, quote, didn't do anything to him. That denial appears to have caught the prosecution off guard.
This young man denied that Michael Jackson molested him. It's going to give this jury pause.
Last night, the boy met with District Attorney Tom Sneddon to talk about the statement and the case. Some court observers say that is an unusual move at this point in the trial. In a change of direction, Jackson attorney Tom Mesereau brought up Jay Leno, saying the boy's family contacted the TV host looking for help. But the accuser said he left Leno a voicemail and never talked to him.
If Leno comes into this courtroom and says, in fact, he did have a conversation with the alleged victim, it's going to be pivotal testimony to this particular case.
And in yet another attempt to catch the boy in a lie, the defense pointed out that in an early police interview, the young accuser said his grandmother had told him about a certain type of sexual act, even though he had testified that Jackson had told him about it. Pressed to explain, the boy said both had told him about it, but it was Jackson who did it. Some court observers say it appears the prosecution is losing control of this witness. Jennifer Miller, CBS News, Santa Maria, California.
A showdown is expected in the Michael Jackson trial today between Jackson's attorney and his young accuser. This following last week's chaotic events, including Jackson arriving at court late and in pajamas. CBS News correspondent Vince Gonzalez reports.
Michael Jackson's bizarre behavior last week overshadowed the testimony of his young accuser. First, the singer was a no-show at his molestation trial. Then an early show producer caught Jackson's motorcade racing to the courthouse after the judge threatened to throw him in jail. The self-proclaimed king of pop finally arrived dressed in pajama bottoms and a t-shirt, complaining of a back problem.
He fell in the early morning hours while he was getting dressed. His back is in terrible pain.
But today the attention will be focused again on the teen accuser as he returns to the stand for cross-examination by the defense.
This is it. I mean, this is the crucial moment in the trial. Everyone knows it. Both sides have had the whole weekend to think about what they want to say, what they want to ask. And if we're going to have a Perry Mason moment in this trial, it's going to come now.
And the jury didn't see the continuous coverage of Jackson's antics, just his strange courtroom attire.
If the jury is thinking about Michael Jackson's pajamas when they deliberate a few weeks from now or a few months from now, and not the alleged victim's testimony, shame on them.
On Thursday, jurors listened as the teen contradicted his brother and sister's testimony and couldn't recall key details of the molestation allegations, something lead defense attorney Tom Mesereau pounced on.
Fasten your seatbelts. This is going to be a bumpy ride.
It's unclear who the next witness will be, but on Friday, prosecutors asked the judge for permission to dig into Jackson's finances. They say he launched a conspiracy to silence his young accuser because he feared going broke. Michael Jackson seemed tense as he arrived at the courthouse today, but at least he can come and go through the front door. His young accuser left every day through the back door, hidden under an overcoat. And when his testimony wrapped today, he left the prosecution case under a cloud. The teen admitted on the stand he twice told a dean at his middle school that Jackson never molested him. The teen said, quote, "I told him that Michael didn't do anything to me." The investigation of Jackson has been going on for 2 years, but prosecutors first interviewed the dean only on Saturday, nearly 2 weeks into the trial. Today, the teen told District Attorney Tom Sneddon he denied the molestation because he was being teased in school and, quote, "I didn't want to make it worse." But the teen was also unable to remember key details, contradicted his brother's and sister's testimony, and even had trouble recalling the alleged molestation. This can't be how prosecutors wanted this case to go.
He was a terrible witness. He wasn't likable, he wasn't credible, and he raised more questions than he answered. And he's the heart of the prosecution case. If the jury doesn't believe him, they're not going to convict Jackson.
For instance, jurors saw an unaired interview from this pro-Jackson documentary in which the teen, seen here, praised the singer. But he testified it was all scripted. A source who was at the taping tells CBS that's not true, and the teen seems sincere. Prosecutors are now whipping through sheriff's detectives who investigated the case. In comparison, court observers say it's tedious testimony. Bob?
You know, Vince, if whatever Michael Jackson did, if this is the best that the prosecution can do, what we saw today, I think they're going to have a hard time proving this case.
That's the opinion of most observers. It's not over until the jury gets the case, but the defense has done an excellent job of taking prosecution witnesses and making them stars for the defense, and that will likely continue.
Michael Jackson's defense team wrapped up its cross-examination of the accuser by hitting at the heart of its theory. Tom Mesereau asked the boy if he had talked about filing a civil lawsuit if he wins the criminal case. The boy said no.
He said he never talked about wanting to sue. He doesn't want to sue. He hasn't talked about getting money for this.
The prosecution then began its rebuttal, trying to repair damage done during the accuser's intense cross-examination. Monday, the boy admitted he told a school administrator nothing happened between him and Jackson. Today, he told District Attorney Tom Sneddon he had lied about that because he was being made fun of at school as the kid who was, quote, raped by Michael Jackson.
The experts will come in and testify. That's what victims do in cases like this.
Along with establishing inconsistencies in the boy's testimony, the defense is also laying the groundwork for a possible motive. Jackson attorney Tom Mesereau contends that when the boy and his family got upset because Jackson distanced himself from the family, they accused the pop star of molestation.
When the defense was hammering this point home, Michael Jackson sat up straight in his chair and he turned and looked right at the jury to see if they were getting it.
And although the prosecution seemed concerned about yesterday's testimony, it wrapped up today's rebuttal quickly, ready to call a sheriff's detective as its next witness. Jennifer Miller, CBS News, Santa Maria, California.
Now we have, of course, the accuser has been on the stand, and most legal observers, including yourself, have said this has not been helpful to the prosecution. Does the prosecution stand a chance if this testimony is so shaky from the accuser?
I don't know. I don't know where prosecutors go from here. I don't know whether they can prevail and get the convictions that they want against Michael Jackson. Their main witness, the accuser, the alleged victim in the case, the one witness that the jury has to believe for prosecutors to win, just wasn't that believable. He wasn't that credible. He wasn't that likable. He came off as a young man who was very tough and strong and savvy, not the type of young man who would allow himself to be molested. And that's a perception that would be a fair one for the jury to have. And now prosecutors are stuck. The most dramatic part of their case, the highest point of their case, is already passed, and they really haven't sold the jury, and it's not going to get any better from them from here.
So when you have a teenager, though, and I know he couldn't remember some of the dates as far as when the molestation was supposed to have occurred, does the jury give him any leeway, saying he's a kid? How would he remember? There's no leeway there, you don't think?
No, I think there is wiggle room. I think there is some sympathy built into the fact that he is a young man. He's an early teenager, and especially boys are very sullen at that age, and they're not very cooperative, and they can miss things. Don't forget he's a cancer survivor, Melissa, and he went through that whole process. It was obviously very traumatic, physically left him scarred and so forth. So there is a built-in sympathy factor. I guess my point is that apart from that, he did not generate more sympathy, enough sympathy, I think, for the jury to say, you know what, we're going to give this kid a break. Even if he's not sure of all of the facts, we're going to trust him, and we're going to be sympathetic and empathetic to him. I just don't think he made that connection. I think he hurt himself, and I think that's one of the reasons why prosecutors yesterday, when they had a chance on redirect examination to rehabilitate him, to answer some of the questions he had raised by his own testimony, really didn't do it. I think they wanted him off the stand, their own witness, because they figured that all he would do by staying on the stand and continuing to testify would be to further hurt the prosecution's case. I think they tried to cut bait, and I think that tells me a lot also about what they think of their own witness.